I looked at some stuff, but then I watched the video again, and he has far too much detail for him.
Far too much detail.
Yeah, gut-wrenching.
Gut-wrenching.
How do you find the survivor stories? Just with that.
How do you find those survivor stories? Well, you don't have to look far. There's a lot of YouTube channels that want to give them to you. But I'm not here to try to convince you of anything. I just want to tell you what's going on YouTube. In this episode of Red Pill to Pay the Bills from UNIRock, make up your mind yourself, right? Why should you have someone tell you? That's what they want to do now. YouTube is a place where they fight for your beliefs. Get you caught up in a story that really yanks on your emotions so they can get you the clicks and the views, and they get a little piece of your mind. Let's do this. Let's go. This is Red Pill to Pay the Bills on UNIRock. Okay, so what are the claims? Well, it's kind of hard to tell you. We got to trace this back a little bit. There's so many claims going on that I can't keep track. Can you? Are you keeping track? Do you know who the bad guys are? Don't worry. YouTube has you covered. They're gonna look you dead in the camera and tell you who the bad guys are. You don't need to think for yourself. You don't have to wonder. You don't have to open your mind. Just close it. Shut the door. And someone will do the thinking for you. Take a search. Go do a search. Type in voodoo donuts. Because what's happening right now is that a group of people on YouTube are telling you that Voodoo Donuts is the new Pizzagate. Hashtag Donutgate, baby. And the way they're doing that is with a guy named Vegan Mikey. Vegan Mikey. Now, I didn't know that there was anyone standing up lately and complaining about Vegan Mikey. I thought that everyone thought he was cool. And I didn't bother to look at Donutgate, Voodoo Donuts, or these survivor stories because the person who's collecting the survivor stories is not someone that you can trust. I set to prove this a few weeks ago, Isaac Cappy, and I showed you all the red flags that had to do with him. You know that I personally think that Isaac Cappy is responsible for InfoWars being censored. Why? Because I received information that he was. I gave it to you. The thing is, there's some things you can't prove. And when I can't prove something, I don't ask you to believe it. I just tell you that it's my opinion. And I truly think that there is a push from someone or something. Some things are so big that we'll never know who's up at the very top of it. Maybe like if a miracle happened, you'd get a glimpse. And if you blink your eyes, you miss the glimpse. All I know is I've been getting communications that tell me certain secrets that are going on behind the scenes, and I never listen to them because I get a lot of that stuff. And God knows who you should trust, right? The only thing you can trust is that thing I always point at, because I usually have like windows back here, but I've got a green screen in front of them. I usually point at my window and I tell you that you can only trust evidence. Everything else out there has to be judged by you. Now, I always had this thought process that if I didn't have evidence to back something up, I could never think it's true. I could think it's possible, but I just can't think it's true. There's designations that you have to make that aren't being made anymore. And I think that that is the greater, and I'm going to use a charged word, but it's just my opinion. I think it's the greater psyop. The greater psyop. The psyop above the others. Break down your fundamental understanding of what evidence is. Break it down. Shatter it. Don't pick up the pieces. They want you to have a hard time understanding the fundamental things that make something evidence or real or truth. And they want you to think that someone's opinion and a lot of crumbs, a lot of dots that you can connect will lead you there. I've been on YouTube for a few years now, and I've had a lot of people reach out to me. I've always been as nice as humanly possible. Whenever anyone reaches out to me, whether I like them or not, I let them come on my show. I talk to them. I do my best to try to give them a chance, right? And I've come to find out that several of the people that have contacted me have been putting on a mask. They've been wearing a veil of fakeness when they talk to me. Just being someone that they're really not. And I think that's a purposeful thing. Because is the real person the type of, like, if somebody's being real, are they the thing that can just shift? Can they shift back and forth? Can they be skeptical 1 minute and very receiving of information the next? Can they question some things but let other things slide by? Or is there something behind this concept? Is something making them slide? That's what I'm asking you today. And I'm going to do it the way I always do things. I'm going to show you some stuff. So, I'd like to say this before I go, and I'm going to shut off the music for it. Some people are going to insinuate that I'm attacking them. I am not. In fact, I had a completely different show planned, and I just shifted it just now. Really, what I wanted to show you was my opinion of Voodoo Donuts, hashtag Donutgate, and if it was the next Pizzagate. Well, you wouldn't want it to be the next Pizzagate, because Pizzagate has been debunked as being comped by the government or by political sides. You could say that, by a side of the government as being comped by the government, right? I don't know. I guess that's your own definition. But Pizzagate was comped and pulled to a political side and used to affect an election. So if you've got the next Pizzagate, it means you've got the next propaganda campaign. Is this new thing the next propaganda campaign? I don't know, man. You got to figure that out for yourself. But what I'm going to show you, there are so many things coming out. Basically, there was a person who appeared on Lift the Veil, and Mikey the Vegan, and I was going to talk to you about him, but I'm not going to now, because I heard Mikey's claim. It took me 2 videos, hours of watching, and sitting there going back and hearing it again for me to even get to it, because my issue, so a lot of people have asked me, and I'm responding now, and then it's done. I'm setting it down. I'm not going to go wallow in this mire of content, okay? Do I believe Vegan Mikey? 50-50. I believe part of his story. I believe that when he was young, he had that part of it's true. But the stuff that happened recently, I do not believe at all. I know, you're going to hate me, you're going to unsub, you're going to call me an evil person, but I'm just giving you my opinion. I'm not asking you to believe me. What's the big red flags here? The thing is, when I first meet Vegan Mikey, I'm told for over 40 minutes how trustable he is. That was one red flag, doesn't mean he's wrong. Then I get sympathy for him by hearing what happened to him as a kid, and I'm thinking the whole time, why didn't this start off with what's going on now? And then it goes into what's going on now in another video from like 23 hours ago. And I went in, and halfway in, I hear Vegan Mikey explain that he stood there at a party, heard that there was a lot of violent sex stuff going on in a room. And then he's standing there, and a bunch of kids get taken into the room. And then Vegan Mikey doesn't call the cops until well later. I am sorry to say this, but that's not realistic. Any person would not let those kids walk into that room. They would call the cops right away. If they were being intimidated, as soon as they walked out the front door, which was admitted by him to just be about an hour and a half later or an hour later, he would immediately call the cops as soon as you're in your car and driving away. But that's not what happened. And I made sure to triple, quadruple. You could even say, the guys that were watching me on Twitter, how many times did I check? 20? Did I replay it 20 times? So I'm sorry to say, you are culpable, Mr. Vegan Mikey. You deserve to be in prison. You stood there and let these kids be abused And even after you left, you got in a car and drove away and let them be abused and went to several more parties and quote-unquote watched the same thing happen and didn't stop it or try to call the police or contact any authorities. I mean, hell, if the police wouldn't listen, and you'd never know because you didn't contact them, but you filed a report, that's not contacting the police and letting them know that children are in danger. And I'm sorry if you all hate me now and don't want to subscribe to me and think I'm a bad guy. I'm sorry. But you're not going to tell me what I believe and what I don't believe, and I'm not going to do that to you. I know sometimes I cross the line on my show. I know sometimes I call people shills and I get a little mad, but that's just because we are facing so many people that are willing to lie and bullshit, you know, and it really gets to people. It gets to me. And I'm not saying that Nathan's anything bad or lying or anything else. I'm not. I haven't. I'm telling you this, though. Mikey is not telling the truth. He only have two possibilities if you believe Mike. Well, two possibilities. Either Mikey's lying about the story or he is culpable in the abuse of those kids. Now, you cannot argue that with me, and if you do, I'll know you're trolling my ass. Because it's his own words. I've traced it back. I've listened to it. I've written it down. How can I say that? Uni, how can you say that? Well, that's why I'm putting Voodoo Donuts down as soon as I'm done with this. Because Mikey said he watched the kids be taken into the room where the abuse was happening. He knew for a fact, his own words, it was happening, and he just stood there and was not allowed to leave. Well, he was allowed to leave. They just told him that they didn't want him to leave, and he didn't leave, and I gave him a pass on that. But once you're in that car and you're driving off, if you don't do something to help those poor kids in that room, then I'm sorry, you need to be charged also with the crimes, the felonies that you committed by letting it happen and then not reporting it for days, which was admitted. Yes, I listened to the clip so many times I almost threw up. And also, I am not happy with the way this was presented to us because a lot of people donated to a PayPal link for some reason before they even heard the story. And they'd already gave him a bunch of money and then heard the part of the story. And I was watching the live chat, and in that live chat, 2 people out of 1,500 said, "You didn't protect those kids? Why didn't you call the cops? You mean you left them there?" That was from 2 people before they were kicked out. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I'm not going to bring it back up because it affects me. To think that his story's true and that was happening, that he allowed that to happen, I don't respect him now. And if I think he's lying, then I don't respect him. So I'm going to let it go and move on. Thank you for listening. But that is my response to any of you that ask me about this Voodoo Donut bullshit. Well, part of it, because Voodoo Donuts, though, isn't Mikey. It's a different topic. Could still be something going on with Voodoo Donuts. I don't know. I'll let you know what we find. I give you my word. But there's a few things you need to see, like the large group of creators and people. And I'm not one of them. I'm just doing a show. I'm not investigating these guys. I don't care much to ever speak to any of them ever again. I'm just going to do my show and move on like I do with you. As many of you wish to stay or as many of you go, I want to be here doing a show and giving you the option to come. But you got to see what other creators are saying. There has been a giant backlash against this new thing that people are calling PG. Because you know, if you say it on your channel, the algorithm's going to get you. Stands for